There's something strange about certain watches. Some of them reflect everything: lights, ceiling, windows, even your own face. And others almost disappear. The crystal vanishes, the dial just floats there. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Today, I want to talk about the reason why that happens, which is anti-reflective coating, otherwise known as AR coating. What it is, how it works, why brands approach it completely differently, and which approach actually makes the most sense long term. I'm James. I'm a watch enthusiast, watch collector, and an advisor. And I want you to know and love your watches. And that is what this channel is all about. So if you enjoy this type of content, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. You'll see new content from me every week. And you can find links to more of my content right down in the description below. So with that said, let's jump into the topic of AR coating. At its core, anti-reflective coating is solving a very simple problem. Light hits your watch crystal, and a portion of that light reflects back to you. On an uncoated sapphire crystal, you're losing roughly 8% of incoming light to reflection. That's why some watches feel harder to read, especially in bright environments. Anti-reflective coating, otherwise known as AR coating, is designed to reduce that reflection from the watch. And it does so using extremely thin layers applied directly to the sapphire. These layers manipulate how light behaves, so instead of bouncing back at your eye, more of it passes through to the dial. This means better clarity, better legibility, and in some cases, you get that invisible crystal effect. Now, without getting too deep into the physics of it, what's actually happening here is something called destructive interference. Light reflects off both the top and bottom surfaces of the coating. And when those reflections are precisely tuned, they cancel each other out. Almost like noise-canceling headphones, but for light instead. That's why AR coatings are applied in incredibly precise thicknesses, measured in nanometers. And it's also why you sometimes see a faint blue or purple hue on certain crystals. That tint is a byproduct of which wavelengths of light are being canceled most effectively. It's not a flaw, it's actually evidence that the coating is doing its job right. Anti-reflective coatings didn't start in watchmaking. They came from the world of optics, camera lenses, binoculars, military equipment, as far back as the 1930s and 1940s. Watches didn't really need them, at least not at first. Early watches used acrylic crystals, which naturally reduced glare. But when the industry shifted towards sapphire, which is far more scratch resistant, but also far more reflective, suddenly legibility became an issue once again. And that's when AR coating started to show up more prominently in watchmaking, especially on tool watches where readability was critical. This is where things get really interesting, because not all anti-reflective coatings are applied the same way. Some brands apply AR coating only to the inside of the crystal. Others apply it to both the inside and the outside. And that one decision creates a completely different experience. Let's talk about internal AR only. Take the Rolex Sky-Dweller. Rolex applies AR coating only to the underside of the crystal, which means you still get some glare from the top surface. And that's intentional, because external AR coating, while incredibly effective, is also more prone to scratching over time. Rolex is known for prioritizing its durability. They want the watch to look consistent 10, 20, 30 years down the line, even if that means sacrificing a little bit of optical clarity. Now, compare that to something like the Grand Seiko SLGA017 or the Omega Seamaster Ploprof Summer Blue. These watches use AR coating on both sides of the crystal, and the result is immediate. The glare drops dramatically from the other watches, and the dial becomes more visible and more present. In some lighting, it genuinely looks like there's no crystal on the watch at all. But the trade-off is real. That outer layer can pick up micro scratches over time. So you're choosing between maximum clarity or maximum durability. Applying anti-reflective coating is a highly controlled process. The crystal is placed in a vacuum chamber, and extremely thin layers, again measured in nanometers, are deposited onto the surface of the watch. This is typically done through processes like PVD, also known as physical vapor deposition. Each layer is tuned to interact with specific wavelengths of light. And the more refined the process, the more effective the coating becomes. Higher end executions often involve multiple layers, each one improving performance incrementally. With something like the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Ultra Thin Perpetual Enamel, that clarity enhances the depth of the enamel dial. You're not just seeing the surface here, you're really seeing into it. And with the Girard-Perregaux 1966 Orion, the aventurine on the dial comes alive. That star-like sparkle depends on the light reaching the dial cleanly. Without effective AR coating, you'll lose a lot of that magic. So, what does all this actually mean when you're wearing the watch? With something like the Sky-Dweller, you'll always have a bit of reflection. You're always aware of the crystal, but the upside is the consistency. It's going to look the same year after year after year. Now, with something like Grand Seiko and Omega, you get that wow factor. That moment where the dial just appears unobstructed. But over time, you may start to notice wear on that outer coating. And then in the dress watch category, AR coating becomes almost essential, because these watches are all about the nuance, the texture, the depth, the light. And when the crystal disappears, you connect with that dial in a completely different way. So, which approach is better? The answer is neither. They're just solving for different priorities. Rolex is optimizing for longevity. Grand Seiko and Omega are optimizing for visual clarity. And then you have brands like Jaeger-LeCoultre and Girard-Perregaux, which are using AR to enhance the artistry that you can find on the dial. And all of these approaches are very valid, because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to eliminate reflection completely, it's to create an experience that feels right to you. And sometimes that means a crystal that just disappears. And other times it means one that reminds you it's still there. Because the best watch is the one that lets you enjoy what's underneath it. Thank you for stopping by the video today. If you enjoyed this video, definitely take a look at one of my other recent ones about watch crowns and how they do everything that they do inside the watch. I appreciate you all for being here, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.